Hi, we're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. I'm glad you joined me. The People's Convoy had a rally today in downtown Los Angeles. It wasn't actually, it was a convoy, but it was LA firefighters, federal workers, doctors, scientists, educators, and artists held a rally today to defeat, the rally was based on defeating the mandate. Downtown LA, I didn't get a chance to go down there. I was thinking about going down there and interviewing some more folks, but I wasn't able to make it. Did you guys go down there? Were you aware of it? Well, you can go on thepeoplesconvoy.org, put the in front of the people, and see that they're in California and they're protesting some California bills that are coming up for vote. And I'll read when we come back from the break. I'll read them, what those bills are. I'll bring up the website. Also, I'm going to put up in my show notes someone just sent me a woke liberal going off on a school board and literally crying about the fact that they will not allow people to get beta blockers and necessary transitional things for transgenders. So transgender folks is the new civil rights issue. Yeah. LGBTQIA is and transgender more specifically, is the new civil rights issue. Were you aware of that? I was driving into the station. I was listening naturally to Meet the Press, and Chuck Todd had on there Larry Summers. Larry Summers was the economic advisor during Obama's era. I think he was, he was the director of, I wrote it somewhere. Here it is. The director of the National Economic Council from 2009 to 2010. This is when Obama was in office, during Obama's administration. Larry Summers was also the president of Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I don't really understand economics that well, and so I have to look up the terms. Larry Summers said that we're going to be headed, there's a likelihood, it's not inevitable, but there's a likelihood that we'll be headed towards a recession. Well, Peter Navarro and also Steve Cortez, both Peter Navarro and Steve Cortez appear regularly on the War Room, Steve Bannon's War Room, which is on Rumble and all the other social media platforms you can find it on. They have been saying this for the last year or more. Peter Navarro calls it stagflation. Stagflation is inflation plus recession. So Larry Summers says, there's a likelihood, it's not inevitable, that we'll be headed towards a recession. Now, all the folks in the media, all the economists before including Biden, were telling us, including Jen Psaki, were informing us the last few months, that the economy was good and that inflation was transitory. It wasn't here to stay. And what inflation we are experiencing is because of Russia, Putin, and that and other economists, in fact, there was a group, I can't remember, there was two economists, people in think tanks that were on the Washington Journal, and they were saying that the economy is good and that the numbers look good, the employment numbers look good, and that Build Back Better. In fact, Larry Summers was even championed some aspects of Build Back Better. So the economists for Biden so in other words, everything that comes out is a mess. I mean, we are probably headed, when I speak with our Michael Young, who's been on the show, the war correspondent, I go on his locals channels, and he's been talking about food shortages for the last few months, if not longer. That there's going to be an economic crisis, that we're in an economic crisis now. Some countries I remember seeing briefly, are experiencing food shortages now. So what is a recession? I had to look it up because I'm not an economist and I don't really know. So I looked it up, and a recession is a macroeconomic term that refers to a significant decline in general economic activity. It had been typically recognized as 2 consecutive quarters of economic decline, as reflected by GDP in conjunction with monthly indicators such as a rise in unemployment. So we're going to be there, and Larry Summers and Peter Navarro says we're in stagflation, and Steve Cortez, they're anticipating a recession. That's just one thing. So if a recession is recognized or characterized by 2 consecutive quarters in a decline in a rise in unemployment, and then so that's on the one hand that we have coming towards us, presumably, reportedly. And then on the other hand, Biden is going to get rid of that Section 42 that would put a damper on the illegal aliens that are waiting at the southern border. The numbers, what I've heard once Biden gets rid of this Section 42, I don't know if it's called Title 42 or not, I can't remember, but the numbers is 42. And that regulation was to impede the illegal aliens, illegal immigrants coming into the country because of the health hazard of COVID. So at the end of May, Biden is presumably getting rid of that. And therefore, I heard on the War Room, if he gets rid of that, that means there is a likelihood that as many as 400,000 illegal aliens will be coming into America next month. Well, the month after he gets rid of Title 42. I think I heard this on Washington Journal that they anticipate 18,000 illegal aliens entering a day. So I don't know, what is 18,000 times 30? That's probably 400,000. That's like 300 and something thousand, 380,000 or something like that. So they're anticipating. So on the one hand, we're going to be getting on the one hand, there's report. See, this is the thing. People aren't connecting dots. That's something that the left doesn't do. They look at everything in isolation, as an isolated event. And I've said this before. They don't see the interconnectedness and interrelatedness of events. And I'm going to say this. I think definitely conservatives are smarter than the left, because the left can never connect dots. They can never see the interrelatedness of all of everything. Everything is interrelated. In fact, when you talk about, I was talking to someone on one of the social media channels. I was talking about how the Democratic Party is their policies. The policies of the Democratic Party, the policies coming out of the Supreme Court for the last 7 decades, the policies coming, and you guys know my position. I've said these things 1,000 times. So I'm sort of like preaching to the choir. That's what they say. I need to say these things to people who don't understand these things, who don't understand that there have been policies from the left. These policies from the left have been adversely impacting the culture. Our families when you talk about our families, you're talking about our culture, the American culture. When you talk about American families, you're talking about the American culture. But not just that, the schools and everything else, right? But everything, the media, everything, the culture is all of that. What values are promoted? These are our cultural issues. What values are promoted in the media? What values are embraced? Right? These are the things that reflect our culture. The percentage, how the American family is in decline. The divorce. People now expect to get divorced if they get married. That's the expectation. And in fact, they even say now something to the effect that, men no longer want to get married. At least some of the guys in the black community say that, oh no, marriage is no longer in vogue. It's no longer the thing to do. But beta blockers and hormone reassignment surgery is now in vogue. We're supposed to be concerned with beta blockers, hormone blockers, and gender reassignment surgery is now fashionable. But marriage, oh no, that's like, that's not a good thing. Who wants to get married? That's not see, this is our culture. So now our culture embraces hormone blockers, beta blockers, and gender reassignment surgery as a priority. That's the most important thing. So on the one hand, we're anticipating, some economists are anticipating a recession, and then on the other end, a recession is reflected by a rise in unemployment, and then on the other hand, you have them getting rid of 42, and illegal aliens are going to be coming into the country at the rate, once they get rid of the Title or Section 42 in late May, at a rate of 18,000 per day. So conservatives are able to make this connection. If unemployment is going to be rising, and by the end of May, you're going to have 18,000 per day illegal aliens entering the country, we can connect those two. We see how that is related and how it's dismal and bad news for America. And why would someone do that? Why would someone embrace policies that bring those two variables together? Why would a president embrace policies that bring a rise in unemployment and a rise in illegal aliens, bringing them together? Who would do that? But when you talk to the people on the left, they can't make that kind of connection. They see everything isolated. Everything exists, within its own sphere or its own way. It doesn't relate to anything else. And I was talking to someone on the internet, and I said that. I said the policies of the left, of the Democratic Party, have failed America, have failed our relationship, have failed our culture for 7 decades. We're just on this we're on a trajectory of more failure and decline of the American culture. And that is and you can see that in the relationships. As I always say, the American family is the most important institution in society. So when you have women and men not getting along, and men and women don't get along, they don't value marriage, divorce is cool and the way to go. If you're going to get married, you know you're going to get divorced soon thereafter. Marriage is not cool. Transgenderism is the new civil rights. You see the interrelatedness of this thing. This is the decline of the American family. The decline of the American family is the decline of the American culture. And how people can't relate that to. And I see that also. I was on Twitter and I was looking at what was tweeting or what is it trending on Twitter, and it's Harvey Weinstein. They're upset. These folks on Twitter are upset. Well, Twitter is only a small microcosm of the people. Normal people aren't. The average person isn't on Twitter. But you like to see where the pulse of things is. You know, you want to put your finger on the pulse of things. The average person is not on Twitter. No. Oh, and I want to mention that I'm now on Truth Social. Are you guys on Truth Social? So my handle on Truth Social is the Naked Truth Report. You guys can remember that. Oh, don't forget to go to my website, thenakedtruthreport.com, and enter your email address so you can receive my blog posts. So please do that. I'd appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my Rumble channel and the Naked Truth Report YouTube channel. I'm trying to get those numbers up. I've been trying to get them up for like 5 years now. So that's not funny, but it's true. I think what I'm going to start doing is a podcast. Because I only do the show once a week, right? So I'm not uploading frequently. And so consistency and frequency is something that improves your numbers on social media. So what I think I'm going to do is start doing a podcast like 2 or 3 days a week so that I will have more frequency in the media, on the social media platforms. Or with my YouTube channel and my Rumble channel, so I have more numbers. Because I really believe if I start doing a podcast like 2 to 3 days a week, I can get my YouTube subscribers up to 10,000. I mean, my nature is optimistic, but I believe it because I believe that what I'm saying, what I talk about, I don't think other people are talking about, but I do believe a lot of Americans are feeling it. The loudest people, the biggest voices, the largest voices in the media do not reflect what the American people are feeling and thinking. And I realized that when I just feel that that's what's going on. I know that's what's going on when I went back, when I embedded with the truckers and I drove through Indiana, Indianapolis, and Maryland. I was back there talking to people. I know middle America thinks like I think. I know the majority of Americans think like I think, understand what I think. Understand what I'm thinking, what I'm saying. They understand the decline of the American family and how that's detrimental. They understand how the policies coming out of D.C. are bad for the American people. It's like a poison. The policies from the left, it's a poison. It's a cancer that must be excised from the patient. Must be excised out of America. This is why, and so California is sort of like late, or I don't know, being in California is like a drag, is it not? But it's encouraging that these LA firefighters, federal workers, doctors, scientists, educators, and artists were rallying today downtown to defeat the mandates. Because that's getting ready to come back now, you see. I just read a piece in the Gateway Pundit where Dr. Fauci said that by fall, there's a rise in COVID. Oh, I can't say that. Oh, I can't say the C word. If I want to get on YouTube, they'll block me. There's a rise in cases, and so therefore we may go back to mask. Did you see? That's on the Gateway Pundit. That's what Fauci just said. And also, what do I want to? So, in other words, and he also said something like this: the big C is going to be with us forever, and that's why that's what the truckers are protesting. That's why they had a convoy to D.C. because they want to get rid of the emergency mandate. Biden hasn't gotten rid of that yet, and they don't want it coming back, because they know it's just about power and control. It has nothing to do with policies. Any thinking person can see what is happening to America. You can see how this has all been a negative thing for America. Am I right or am I wrong? We know, listen, my listeners know I know I'm right. Because why do I know I'm right? Because I know the data, and you see the numbers and the decline of the American family. It's not good for the American family to be in decline. It's the most important, I said it again, I'll say it again, it's the most important institution in society for the American family to be on the upswing, to be tight and together. So I was on a radio program. I was on Friday. I was a guest on Judge Brown's radio show. He has a radio show now. You guys know that Judge Joe Brown has been a guest on my show regularly. And so I was guest on his show on Friday. And one of the things I enjoyed it, we talked for a long time, and you can follow Judge Joe Brown on Twitter. It's Judge Joe Brown TV. You can follow him, and it's Blog Talk Radio. And one of the things, we talked for a long time, and one of the things and most of his listeners, if not all, are Black Americans, right? And so the listeners called in. And one of the things that maybe one, if not two or more, said was, because, I'm always talking about why I'm anti the Democratic Party, how I can never vote for the Democratic Party again, and why. I explain why, and you guys know why, because I've discussed this since I've had this show. When I started learning, I always say this, when I started learning the data on illegal aliens, immigration, massive immigration, when I started learning that, and I started first with Dr. Claude Anderson, and it piqued my interest, and it motivated me to dig deeper and to see when I learned stuff from Dr. Claude Anderson on illegal aliens and how illegal aliens adversely impact Black America and all America because they suppress wages. I didn't just stop with Dr. Claude Anderson. I said, let me look at this. I am curious. Let me learn what's going on. Let me learn this stuff, right? So then when I would learn, and you can find everything on the internet. When you look and you do your research because you're curious and you want to know and you want to dig deep, you find the commission. You find the commission from Congresswoman Barbara Jordan that was delivered in the 90s. You find her testimony about that illegal aliens adversely impacting Americans. You find Patrick Bascio, the father. Patrick Bascio, I've played that before. His name is Bascio. You find his videos on YouTube. You find Terry Anderson, I'm taking his spot here at AM 870. You find his stuff, right? So you do, and you find a lot of stuff. You find all the information. You find the professor from Harvard who talks about it. I think his name is Borjas, you see. And then you find Numbers USA, you see. You find because you're saying, oh my God, one thing leads to another. Oh my God, I want to find out. Why. What is the evidence? What is the data that illegal aliens, illegal immigration is a bad thing for America? What is the evidence of that? So you just do your research, right? So one of the things is that, what I want to say is that when I was on Judge Joe Brown's show, I said to him, I could never vote for the Democratic Party ever again, because why? I learned the data on illegal aliens, and the Democratic Party pushes illegal aliens. So how could I support them ever in life? because they lie about it all the time. They always say, oh, illegal aliens do jobs that Americans don't want to do. That's not true. That's a lie. Okay? So why would you support? I could never go back to the Democratic Party. I could never support them. And then you dig deeper and you learn that they've been bad since day one, right? Since Reconstruction. It was Johnson, the vice president for Abraham Lincoln, who was a Democrat, who got rid of Reconstruction. This is why you have to do your research, folks. Anyway, there's my music. When I come back from the break, I was gonna read something. I can't remember what it was. I forgot. Once I get talking, I forget what I'm talking about. I'm sort of talking without notes. I'm just sort of free flowing it. The only thing I read was the definition of the recession, which I wrote down. But there are a lot of things I want to talk about when we come back from the break. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. So what was the last thing I was saying? I can't remember. I'm not looking at my notes. I did write some notes. Oh, I want to say this, that so when I was on Judge Joe Brown's show and the listeners would call in, a few of the listeners would always say, because I'm like bashing the Democratic Party and like saying, logic says, how can you ever vote for the Democratic Party again when you learn the data? How can you ever do it again? I mean, what's wrong with you? Are you logical? So a lot of people would call in, not a lot, but a few people would say, well, and we know that they're black, so they vote Democrat, and they feel basically they're trying to justify and they feel guilty, okay? And they listen to Judge Joe Brown because they consider themselves involved and participatory and engaged with politics, and they want to hear the stuff, right? So they're basically trying to justify or They say, well, essentially, they say, and I always hear this, both parties are corrupt. That's what they say. Both parties are corrupt. So neither party is any good. That's what they say. Yeah. So, yeah, I think there are rhinos. There are establishment Republicans that are no good. We've learned that when we're talking about the 2020 election. There are establishment Republicans, Liz Cheney, Kinzinger, that are no good. But essentially, this is the issue for me as a black American who's been voting for the Democratic Party. I will never vote for them because the issue is that the Democratic Party pushes harder. Now, there are Republicans. They talk about Reagan and amnesty, and they talk about how establishment Republicans are for immigration too, they're for illegal aliens too, because they're with the Chamber of Commerce. It's a business decision. And if Republicans really cared about illegal aliens, they would institute E-Verify. So this may be true, yes. I mean, yes, I hear all of that, but this is the issue now, is that when Trump, I'm a MAGA supporter. I'm a Trump supporter. And when Trump came down the elevator with his wife, the first thing I knew I was voting for him when he was talking about building a wall. You see, because this whole thing of illegal aliens has been an issue for the American people since the 90s, at least, probably sooner. Because the Immigration Act of 1965, it's been going downhill since the 70s. I think illegal aliens probably started trudging into the U.S. probably when the Immigration Act of 1965 was effectuated. Would you say? Probably around the 70s and 80s. That's when we probably started getting. So this has been going on for decades, folks, and it hasn't been solved. And the thing that the Democrats always say, the politicians, I hear them on Washington Journal, they always say, we need to reform immigration. No. We don't need to do anything. We've got the rules on the books already that you shouldn't enter the country illegally. That goes against the Constitution. And the term is illegal aliens because that's in the law, that's in our legal documents, is illegal aliens. This is the thing about Democrats and the left. They change, and I've said this before, they change all our terms and words, our terminology, and we start embracing them. Someone else sent me an email saying that too. We should not embrace, I think someone called in the last week and said that. We should not embrace, conservatives should not embrace the terms that the legacy media uses. We have to use the proper terms and refuse to embrace their terms. Undocumented worker, illegal alien. No, they're illegal aliens, honey, because that's what it says in the books, okay? In the federal legislation, in the federal books. Someone foreign in your country is an illegal alien. I don't know why the legacy media and it lets you know that the left dominates the mainstream media. Now, I really, this is the thing that I want to say also. I really enjoy, you guys realize I was on Newsmax for like 2 or 3 minutes, their morning program. I want to do more of that because I will change the whole thing, okay? Like I said before, I'm an older Candace Owens. The narrative needs to be changed completely. The problem with Republicans and conservative talking heads, they embrace the same language. I'm not going to even, I'm talking about illegal aliens, and let me tell you why, right? Stop using those words. And also, I know the data. You never hear anyone talk about the data. Now, this whole thing about Ketanji Brown, what's her name? Ketanji. I can't, I probably have that's like a Freudian thing or some unconscious thing that I have going on where I can't say her name properly. The new Justice, Ketanji Jackson Brown. This is mere symbolism. Okay? It's mere symbolism. Hey, listen, Obama was symbolism. The first black this and the first black that and the first Latino this and the first Latin. This is mere symbolism. And when you're focused on symbolism, you're shallow and superficial. Because I want some substance. Ketanji Jackson Brown, who cares if you're still embracing policies that destroy America and Black America? I don't care what color you are. If you embrace policies that destroy Black America, you're no good. And I don't know why people don't talk like this, okay? These talking heads. I was only given 2 or 3 minutes on the show it was called, I can't remember, Wake Up America on Newsmax. But I need to be on those shows more often because I know how to talk. I know the issues and I know the data. Okay? These people who are on these shows talking, they're not sufficient. Because they're not talking right. They don't know the data. They can't talk about Reconstruction and how Woodrow Wilson, which is what you get. You get this information when you take what? Hillsdale College free online courses. And I keep reaching out to their marketing person to sponsor my show because I talk about it so much. I encourage everyone to take those Hillsdale College free online courses because that's where you learn about how Woodrow Wilson not only was a racist, but a Democrat. And he was the one that brought in this whole permanent bureaucracy business. This Dr. Fauci stuff, who wants us to get back to mask wearing. You know, Dr. Fauci is a part of this permanent bureaucracy, these so-called experts who are ruining America, you see. And Woodrow Wilson is the one that brought that in. And when you take these free online courses, you realize, you learn it. And these free online courses from Hillsdale College, they need to be taught in all the schools instead of this crap that they're teaching now about transgender rights. Who cares about a transgender? They only make up about what? 0.5% of the population, if that? In other words, the majority of the population has to be beholden to 0.5% of the population. We have to be dictated to. These folks are anti-heterosexuals. There's a war on heterosexuals. There's a war on traditional marriage. They're bigots against heterosexuals. So we need to start our group as heterosexuals. We need to start the pro-heterosexual group, right? Am I right or am I wrong? Anyway, let me take a call now from, is this Bridget? Hi, Bridget. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Love your show. Anyway, I just wanted to comment about the illegals, and I totally agree with you. I'm so mad about what's going on at the borders, and I just don't. And it's so unfair to the American people, and so many Americans put up with this. This is what I don't get, and I always think about the ones that were born here illegally from decades ago, and they're if they weren't born here illegally, they wouldn't even exist here. So they're taking away jobs, as you said. I mean, it's not just the jobs that people say, the farm jobs. They're taking over construction, as you said. Mm-hmm. They're taking over all the jobs. I mean, everywhere I go, there's Hispanics. I don't know if they're illegals or what, but maybe they were born here illegally. I don't know. But, they're taking away the jobs from the American people. No wonder why there's so many homeless American, right. Even whites, blacks.
Right.
On the streets. I mean, they're probably depressed and stuff like that, but it's infuriating that Americans aren't out protesting about this. I mean, this is way too many of them in this country. That's for sure.
Oh my God. And it's been going on for decades. You see, we didn't get here overnight. This has been
correct.
And you drive
exactly.
And you see these homeless tents everywhere. I'm a native. On Lincoln Boulevard, they're homeless, folks. We know they're homeless in Venice. They're on Sepulveda. They're everywhere. You never saw that before. This is a new phenomenon.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, a friend of mine was pointing out, and I did see that too. I think he's an illegal alien, and he lives in a homeless encampment off the 118 freeway. I believe it's in Pacoima area or San Fernando. Somewhere off the freeway, and the news they did some type of story on him, and he's here illegally, and they're saying, they don't mind him in the neighborhood because he keeps things clean. Well, you know what? He has no right to even be living here in the first place. I mean, they think that they have a right to be here when they don't. And they need to all be, in my opinion, they all need to be scooped up and deported, all of them. I don't care if they've been here I think 40 years.
Exactly. I don't care. And I think the majority.
Think that they can live here and stay here.
Right. And, I think the majority of the American people feel this way. But we're not in the media. We're not on the soapbox, you see. But I think that we've had it because we've had it with all these people, okay? All this traffic. And you rarely see an illegal alien who's homeless. Most of the people you see homeless are American citizens, veterans.
Exactly,
you go down to Venice Beach, you go down, they're every homeless people. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you didn't have homeless tents in neighborhoods. And like I said before, I live in Leimert Park. Those houses go for $1 million. Down the street is a woman living in the bushes, okay? A black woman. She lives in the bushes. Can you imagine living in the bushes, okay? Literally. You didn't see this 10 years ago. You didn't see this even 5 years ago. It creeped up on us where now it's just everywhere. It's like a fungus spreading or a cancer spreading throughout the system. Los Angeles is just done for as far as I'm concerned. And it's very depressing when you hear, my nature is optimistic, but when you hear that we're headed for a recession, we're headed towards a recession. That means there's a rise in unemployment, and then they're going to bring in more 18,000 illegal aliens every month, every day, I mean.
With Title 42?
Yes, for when they get rid of that in May. Biden's going to get rid of it. And that's another thing. Wow. Why would Biden get rid of Title 42? Why would he get rid of that when Fauci is telling us that there's going to be a rise in COVID cases? You see how they do everything separate? If there's a rise in COVID cases, you can't get rid of Title 42 or Section 42. Because there's going to be a rise in COVID. It's just they're corrupt. It's corruption.
Yeah, it's very. It makes me angry, and I wish every American would just say, enough is enough. Just speak out because they don't. And they have to be deported. That's it, and they're bringing all the fentanyl in over the border, and they're getting Americans hooked on it. You don't see the illegal aliens getting hooked on it. You see the Americans getting hooked on it.
Yeah, and the drug cartels, it's just a negative. There's nothing good about it. But it's been going on for decades, so that means that the politicians have failed the American people. The politicians don't have the interest of the American people. That's what's happening. And we need to get rid of these politicians. And I'll tell you that Trump would handle it. That's why I think most of the American people want Trump back in office. And that's why they had to cheat in the election. They stole it from him, okay? Because he's the right thing for the American people. These other folks in D.C. are corrupt. They're no good. They hate the American people, and they're making money off of our failure.
Right, and the lockdown. They profited off the lockdown as well.
And they're going to bring in they want us as global citizens, okay? Biden is a mere puppet. And in fact, I read an article that said Susan Rice is running things. She's like the shadow ghost president. She's running things. Susan Rice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all negative. Thank you, Bridget, for calling in. Let me take the next caller. Hi, Victor. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Well, good evening, Kathleen. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I just calling in because if you remember Friday, I was the one that introduced you on the Judge Joe Brown show.
Yes, you did a wonderful job. In fact, I was so thrilled. I can't believe you listened to my show, and you're calling in from Cleveland. Isn't that right?
Yes.
I think that's so fantastic.
Cleveland.
I think that's so fantastic that you listen to my show. It thrills me. It really does. And you gave it sends chills up my leg. Who said that? I think that was Chris Matthews. But anyway, it gives me a thrill the way you introduced me so warmly. It's like, wow, someone thinks of me like that?
Oh, absolutely. I've been following you, like I said, 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. And, most of the folks on the program agreed with you. You did have a couple of them that will be twixt the two, Democrat and Republican. And you called it out exactly right. Sometimes people who are hardcore Democrats all their lives finally waking up to the realization as to how horrible the party has gotten. And so, they can call them bad politicians or a horrible party, but the Republican Party is a horrible party too. So yeah, you were right on the money. It's kind of a guilt type thing that they're going through, as you had stated earlier. But it was I was excited that you came on, and my friend BJ, whose program you were on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I also saw that too. Bernard's a pretty good dude.
Right, and he's young. And this was one of the things that I think he's in his early 30s. This is the thing that I was trying to impart to Judge Joe Brown, because Judge Joe Brown came on my show, and I said to him then when he came on my show, I said, it's your generation that screwed up. Judge Joe Brown, he doesn't appreciate me saying that. I said, it's your generation that screwed up. It's your generation that screwed up the younger generation. And, I said it on his show again. And I said, you had a responsibility to people like BJ, the young folks. And he says, it's not mine. And he goes through the numbers. It's not mine. So I sort of because I said, well, it's the Jimi Hendrix and the Janis Joplin and Bob Dylan, that generation. And he says, well, that's before the baby boomers.
Right.
Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, he said that was before the baby boom. So I'll stand corrected if, I can understand that. But still.
Yeah.
But then I said.
I think that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then in that conversation about the baby boomers, a lot of young people, Bernard's age and younger, feel the same way that it was the baby boomers. Like Judge was saying, he was a teenager in the 60s. But look at our teenagers today. They're changing the dynamics of our culture, based upon their behavior and everything. So I kind of agree with both of you on that particular point. But the judge has demonstrated that he is sick been sickened by the Democrat Party and the policies of, you know, the confusing of the sexes, especially as it pertains to the children and all of that. He's he gets livid about that. And, and the Democrat Party set all this stuff in order, set this stuff in motion.
It set its stuff in motion. It's a trajectory. We've been here for decades. But I believe that Judge Joe Brown, black men think leaders, thought leaders, and I've reached out to Jason Whitlock and Royce White. I'd like to have them on the show. But black leader, thought leaders like Judge Joe Brown and all should have been telling black men and black folks in general, Trump, vote for Trump, vote for Trump, vote for Trump. And they didn't do that, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to tell them, and I kind of said that on the show. They weren't saying, you guys should vote for Trump, and this is the reason why. They didn't do that.
Well, but you know, on the program, you know, it's not like the judge is anti-Trump, because I've heard him speak about how, you know, people would come on and say how Trump was a racist, and he would correct them. Because I remember the judge stating that he knew some people that actually borrowed money from Donald Trump back in the 90s, I think. And these were melanated people. And when they went back to pay back Donald Trump, it was stated that Donald Trump took the check and ripped it up and told him good job.
Okay.
So, I mean...
Well,
he was a defender.
Okay, well, but he wasn't proactive. But not only Judge Joe Brown, but not just Judge Joe Brown, but Dr. Claude Anderson, okay? See, black men and black folks in general who are interested in politics listen to Dr. Claude Anderson. And I remember President Trump wanted a white paper on criminal justice, and I reached out to Dr. Claude Anderson to do a white paper on the criminal justice system, and he wouldn't do it. See, this is what, and Dr. Claude Anderson is like the baby boomer generation, I'm assuming, or maybe a little older. And he should have, these folks, Dr. Claude, you know, and Boyce Watkins doesn't do it either. Boyce Watkins talks about racism still, and this is 2020. Racism doesn't matter anymore, honey, because now they're trying to get us into globalism, and your race doesn't matter.
What the problem? The reason why they don't do it is because, you know, they saw how people reacted. Remember how Steve Harvey, Jim Brown, Kanye West, you know, would go and meet with Trump, and how they just went, and then poor Chrisette Michele. It was just absolutely disgusting the way black media treated Chrisette Michele for singing at Trump's inauguration. But
no, that's fear. Then you can't operate out of fear. They have to tell the truth. They have to tell the truth. In other words, they're compromised. They're interested in their own interests. They're not interested in black America, and they're not telling the truth, because it's clear that Trump was the best candidate for black America, for all America.
Well, he certainly was.
Yes, and they should have. Boyce Watkins. Boyce Watkins. Go ahead.
No, but I'm saying that you're exactly right. They should have, you know, stood on firm ground and said, look, I've never known any president to tell our people that they wanted to help us until Trump came along. And I think his outreach to our community was absolutely sincere. And I think, but there's a paradigm shift, Kathleen, that is happening. And more, a lot of our people have become disenchanted and very frustrated with the party, to the point where, 19% of black men and about 8% of black women voted for Trump in 2020.
I think it's 13%, but that's not good enough. Let me tell you, if they would have been, these Claude Anderson and Boyce Watkins and all these folks, if they would have been talking to black folks back in 2016, 2020, maybe all those black women wouldn't have voted for Biden. You see? And we wouldn't be in this mess. So, yeah, I blame black folks for giving us Biden, okay? I know they cheated in the election, but all those black women in the South, in South Carolina or Georgia or wherever they were, and Stacey Abrams and all, these are horrible people. They're liars to our people. And I can't stand them. And the truth is the only thing that matters. I feel very strongly about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but there's a shift, and I think like I was stating, one poll I saw, there was Trump got more black votes in 2020 than any Republican president in modern history.
Yeah.
And so, the conventional wisdom is if a Republican gets 10% or more of the black vote, they automatically win.
Right.
And I think he got, 13% in 2016, and he practically doubled that according to some of the polls that I saw in 2020.
Right.
So, people are frustrated with a lot of things that are going on, especially the gas prices and the food shortage they're talking about. It's just a mess, Kathleen.
Thank you, Victor. There's my music. Hey, Victor, we're headed towards a recession. Okay, that's serious, folks. Thanks for calling in, Victor. I'm delighted that you called in because, yes, you did a wonderful introduction of me. I thought, wow, yeah. Anyway, I'll be back next week. This is the Kathleen Wells Show. Oh, no, this is a Naked Truth Report. So I'll see you next week, folks. And eventually I'm going to start doing podcasts like Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. Eventually, yeah, I will. Thanks. I'll see you next week. Bye.